you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, I'm sure at some point within your career you have felt burnout. You may not have known what to call it, but I'm here to help you clarify. Hi, my name is Dayana, and I'm an operations and growth strategist. I help small business owners and entrepreneurs just like yourself to be able to scale effectively and efficiently through building high-performing teams as well as automating your systems and processes. So let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about signs of burnout, and I'm going to be giving a little bit of insight into one of the times when I felt extremely burnt out, and it was really, really rough for me. I didn't really know exactly what to do. And yeah, so we're just going to talk about it a little bit. So some signs of burnout can be behavioral, they can be mentally, they can be emotional, physical, it could be even sometimes losing interest or becoming a little bit more cynical in the things and the views that you might have because you're losing interest in whatever is causing you to feel burnout. So burnout can come in different ways. I know I'm not a parent yet, but I've heard that some parents do experience burnout at some points. If it's a really, really tough time with the child, or if it's a newborn or something like that. I know I've heard it within companies, and I've actually experienced it within a company. And so some of the things that led up to it, it's normally not 3 months, it's normally not 6 months, it's normally an extended period of time that you are under immense pressure and your body does not know how to cope with it after a certain point. So you've done everything that you possibly could do, work, continue, and nothing seems to be working. You start to feel like that you are useless in whatever it is that you are doing. And it's hard to start feeling this way, and some people don't understand whenever it's happening that that's really what is causing it, is them being exhausted. So some physical things that could be happening when you are experiencing burnout is you could be getting headaches, you can be getting stomach aches. I know in one of the positions, I actually ended up getting stomach ulcers because I was under that much stress. Some other ones are just having insomnia or having excessive exhaustion because your body is just tired. And so when your body is extremely exhausted, it can go from one extreme to the other. So it could either show you, yes, you're tired, you need extra sleep, or yes, you're tired, but you cannot calm down enough to be able to get consistent sleep. And so then you end up having insomnia. Another one is increased cynicism. So being extremely negative, and it might not be overly negative, but being negative to the point where the people around you start to notice. And like I've mentioned before, who you are and how you radiate yourself and your positivity definitely matters. And so as a leader, if you are experiencing burnout, the biggest thing that I can say is to start taking care of yourself first. There's no way that you can take care of anyone else until you start to take care of yourself. Sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, and you think that you can save the world, but ultimately, if you are not in a healthy position, mentally, emotionally, physically, then it's going to be very difficult for you to also deposit that and be that person to someone else. Another thing is, and that was going into more so behavioral. So emotional, I know I was experiencing where I was extremely, extremely anxious. And so I was experiencing anxiety. I ended up going into a little bit of a depression. And I was a high functioning person with depression, and it looks differently. It might not always be that you're tucked away in your room. It might be that you are the smiling face around the office. Everyone loves you, but no one knows what you might be struggling with individually. And so that's kind of where my depression started to kick in. Was I was a high performing person with depression, is what they call it, when no one ever can tell, and you're just doing whatever you can to pretty much stay afloat, and then you normally suffer in silence, which is not good. And I do encourage you, if that is ever you, to definitely go to therapy, get help, talk to someone, because there's other people that are around that are with you. And so when I started realizing that, I ended up starting to go to therapy because I realized something wasn't right. And I knew that I was tired, I knew I was exhausted, but I didn't really realize where exactly it was coming from. And I was in the position for I was with the company for about 5 years. And I guess it was more so the buildup that led to it. And you don't realize it in the midst of it. You just kind of keep trying to stay afloat, sink or swim, keep going forward. But over time, that starts to take a toll on a person. And so, if you are the leader within the organization and you are feeling this, step away, because you do not want your anxiousness or your cynicism to be able to radiate over to your team members. That's not going to be beneficial for them, and in turn, it's not going to be beneficial for you. And I also ask you to take heed as the leader to make sure that your team members are also taken care of. So if you start to see some symptoms of them being tired all the time, or they are not showing up for work, or maybe they used to be extremely involved in all of the activities that you all did outside of work and now they're nowhere to be found, or they seem to just be losing interest in their overall job, company, etc., take those things into account, because normally those things don't just happen for no reason. Sometimes it might be something that's going on within that person's personal life that they might be dealing with, and that's fine. But just make sure that you stay ahead of it and stay on top of it, because it goes unnoticed all too often when people are burnt out, and then normally the company ends up losing great people because the person's just so tired that they cannot do it physically, emotionally, mentally anymore, or their performance drops so much that the company no longer wants to have them, and so they end up losing their job because they were just that exhausted. And again, you're still losing a great person because that was a great team member, but they're no longer able to show up like they were because they're just so tired. And so I say it and I emphasize it so much because it really does hit home for me, because it can take a long time to get out of that sense of burnout. And it took me maybe about a year fully to get out of mine. Yes, I was under pressure for about 5 years, and then finally had a year to kind of breathe. But you don't want to ever even have to get to that point. You want to be able to utilize tools and resources to be able to get yourself out of it well before it becomes so much to where you think that, and you feel like that you have to take a step back and pause everything so you can get yourself together. So one of the things that are kind of a little bit about my journey when I experienced burnout. So I actually, it ended up being about 3 to 4 months before I ended up leaving the company, and I ended up changing my desk around like 3 or 4 different times. Every single month leading up to it, I just kept changing my desk around, rearranging my office, because that's how uncomfortable I started to get. And that's how I was trying to cope with, okay, maybe if I change like my scenery, or maybe if I change my positioning within the office, then it'll be a little bit different. I'll feel different. I'll feel better. And it helped temporarily. But when you're burnt out, that's something that is internal, that regardless of what you do around you, is not going to help how you feel internally until you start to break all of that down and work on yourself. And so, and kind of minimize the things that are causing you to be burnt out. So if you are working tooth and nail, well, now implementing some type of a software to keep you more on track and keep you organized might be more beneficial for you. Another thing that I ended up feeling when I was burnt out, like I said, I was having a lot of anxiety. I was even having anxiety attacks sometimes in the car on the way to work or on the way home. I was having excessive headaches. A couple of times I actually had ocular migraines, where my vision goes out whenever I have my ocular migraines, and I don't like to get those. Those are normally are very few and far between. I get them every other year, but because of the amount of pressure I was under, that was something that came up and was definitely not a great thing. Another thing was I started to realize that it was affecting my relationship at home with my now fiance. So my boyfriend at the time, he brought it to my attention that I was just coming home. I was just so exhausted that I could not even have a conversation with him. And it was because I gave so much of my energy at work that there was nothing left when I got home. And that was not fair to him. And he always told me, he said, "Hey, I'm going to support you. And whatever it is you want to do, again, I support it. I know you can do anything, but this is not good for your health." And he realized it, my parents realized it, but I was like, no, they don't know anything. They have no idea what I'm going through. They don't understand. And I kid you not, after I left, there was a sense of weight lifted off of my shoulders, because I knew now I can focus on me. Over the past 5 years, I had no time to focus on myself because I was worried about everyone else, and I was worried about to make sure I was worried about everything getting implemented properly. And when you take that time for yourself, that is the most important thing that you could possibly do for yourself. And what I should have done was, throughout this time period, taken more days off, done more self-care days where I didn't do anything. I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't bring any of my work. A lot of times I slept with my laptop beside my bed, and studies have shown that that is not helpful. You want to be able to separate where you work from where you sleep. And that's where things start to get crossed. I also didn't have boundaries with the supervisors that I had at the time. And so I encourage you as a leader to have your own boundaries so people can't get in contact with you at all times of the night. But also, as the leader, understand that it's important for you to help your team members to set those boundaries for themselves. And the way to do that is by not crossing them. You set the boundaries for them. Hey, I will not bother you after 7 p.m. Or hey, when you're off, you're off. I understand that some jobs cannot be like that, and some jobs you have to just continue to work around the clock. But I would say to try to put in some boundaries, because that is when that's what can help to prevent a lot of this from happening, is having those boundaries up and actually sticking to those boundaries. So if you all found that this was helpful, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I'll be dropping videos every single day for the next 100 days. I've really thoroughly enjoyed this. This was definitely a personal story for me, one that hit home, that I don't share a lot and share very often, but I'm glad that I was able to share it with you all. And I will see you all tomorrow.